A lot of men are consuming things every single day that are killing their boners and lowering their testosterone. And with testosterone levels at the lowest they've ever been in human history, plus the abundance of erectile dysfunction common amongst men, even men in their 20s these days, it's clear that men don't know how to eat in a way that supports their Johnson health and their overall testosterone levels. Well, I'm gonna change that for you guys. In this video, I'm going to show you 8 boner killing foods a lot of men are consuming every single day. And when you eliminate these from your diet, it's going to dramatically support your ability to have sexual health and good erections. Let's get into it. I'm Jonathan White, and I'm the Boner Guru. How did I become the Boner Guru? I spent 12 years studying and training in sexual kung fu for hours a day. And because of that, I've been able to help thousands of men from around the world learn to master their sexual energy and create an epic life. Hit subscribe so that you're notified when new content like this is uploaded. And if you want to learn how to train yourself to develop complete ejaculation control in the bedroom, get my free ebook in the video description below. All right, let's get right into our Limp Johnson creating foods here, all right? Number 1 is seed oils. Seed oils are public enemy number 1. You want to completely eliminate them from your diet. And I'll tell you why. This is somewhat of a controversial thing. It's not controversial at all when you understand what seed oils are and when you understand the history of them, which is quite political. But basically, the most common seed oils being canola oil, vegetable oil, soybean oil, sunflower oil, and more. These are incredibly inflammatory compounds. They are rich in unhealthy fats, and I know that a lot of money was spent to convince the American public that these were heart healthy, but why has heart disease increased and health in general declined ever since seed oils were introduced to the populace? I wonder what happened here. They're incredibly inflammatory, and they actually interfere with the cholesterol synthesis process in the body. What happens is the body takes cholesterol and it turns it into hormones. This is how hormones are created. Well, seed oils prevent this from happening. So poor hormone synthesis equals weak testosterone, limp erections, limp boner. Also, when you consume unstable fats, which seed oils are, this is what your cellular walls build themselves out of. And so your cells become extremely unstable and unhealthy. So your overall health declines. And they're actually much more responsible for your blood vessels hardening up than saturated fats, which are actually incredible for sexual health. It can be difficult to avoid these because they're in so many processed foods. We'll get into that. But basically, do not cook with this bullshit. Do not put it in your body. Avoid seed oils like the plague. Number 2 is, can we guess? Can we guess what this one is? Number 2 is soy, okay? Soy is public enemy number 2. I recommend avoiding soy at all costs if you want to have good erections and sexual function. There's a lot of controversy. People say things like, oh, well, phytoestrogens are plant estrogens. They don't affect humans. But I'm like, if it's an estrogenic compound, and you're loading up with it, like, I don't know, man, I don't know. Like, for example, plastics. Plastics are not human estrogens, but they affect the human body just like an estrogen. So I think it's pretty safe to say that phytoestrogens very likely mimic estrogen in the human body. And we'll get more into why this guy looks like this. There's a lot of psyop happening in modern nutritional information. What happens is big ag, these corporations, they have billions of dollars to spend on this research that they're doing, and they can basically create any outcome that they want with enough money and funding, all right? And so you have to be careful about this stuff. And sometimes just use your common sense, or more importantly, test things yourself. For example, I was a vegan for 4 months, and in this period, I consumed a lot of soy. And I have to tell you, my sex drive tanked. It tanked like crazy. And I'm like, well, I'm eating all plants, supposed to be cleaning out my blood vessels and blah, 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 blah. No, bro. Killed my boner like nothing else, so I quit that shit right away. Soy is shitty. Once again, if it's not apparent, having high levels of estrogen is going to override your testosterone levels in the body. And what happens is you develop man boobs and you get fat and large here. Hence you become a soy boy. Now I'm not trying to shame anybody, you know, it's just, this is what happens, all right? And if this is you, there's something you can do about it, all right? Don't be a victim, be an action taker. What's interesting is the phytoestrogens in soy are most concentrated in the protein. So if you're having like soy protein, like bro, you gotta cut that shit out. You gotta cut that shit out. Number 3 is tap water. Obviously, it's gonna vary based on where you live and what kind of process your local water goes through, but I can tell you that here in America, our tap water is shit. It's terrible. It has fluoride in it, which is a neurotoxin. It disrupts the function of the pineal gland. It disrupts the function of your endocrine glands in general. It messes you up. Chlorine, another compound in American drinking water, it disrupts your gut health. It kills a lot of the beneficial bacteria in your intestines, and so that your intestinal flora gets very unbalanced, very unhealthy, and everything in your body is based upon the health of your gut. It's also become common knowledge that American drinking water, tap water, is loaded with basically birth control. Because what's happening is all these women are on these artificial birth control pills. Those chemicals are urinated out and they're never removed from the water supply. Sure, it's sanitized, but there's still all these compounds in it. So you're literally drinking birth control, which is estrogenic AF, by drinking tap water, and also tends to be loaded with heavy metals, which cause all kinds of toxicity in the body and are highly estrogenic. And this is the big one, because if you're drinking tap water every single day, this is just concentrating and concentrating in your body. And if you're like, well, why can't I get it up anymore? Well, this might be why, Billy. Either find access to spring water. There's a lot of like water delivery companies that will deliver quality, like large bottles of water to your house. You can get a high quality filter, and I'm not talking about the ones like if you go buy a Brita filter, something at the store, those are not gonna take everything out of it. The best is going to be distillation, distilling your water, or reverse osmosis, which does demineralize it, but you can just put some sea salt in it and remineralize your water, no issues. Also, there's a Berkey water filter, really high quality. They've got like fluoride filters and all kinds of things. So high quality filtered water. Fortunately for me, I have access to a well water in the mountains here of North Carolina. So I've got some very high quality water to drink. Number 4 is alcohol. Again, not technically a food, but again, these are things that a lot of people are consuming every single day that are boner killers. To me, alcohol is terrible. It's a vile poison, in my opinion. I haven't touched alcohol in 10 years. And there's a variety of reasons why I recommend against it. But number 1, alcohol is highly estrogenic. It actually increases the aromatase process in your body, which means that testosterone converts into estrogen. This intensifies that process. So if you're drinking alcohol frequently, it's turning all of your testosterone to estrogen, and again, you end up looking like this guy. Huge boner killer. It's also well known to be very terrible for your liver. And when your liver is overwhelmed with toxicity, then it starts producing more sex hormone binding globulin, which is a hormone substance that binds to your androgen receptors. And when your androgen receptors are bound to SHBG, there's basically no space for it to bind to testosterone. So even if you have high testosterone, if you have high SHBG, you can't use that testosterone, essentially. So alcohol, I personally recommend avoiding it like the plague. I mean, like, well, is it okay to have a drink in the evening? No, it's not okay. It's terrible for you, okay? Sure, in moderation, of course, whatever, you know, if you're healthy overall, you'll be able to overcome it. But not to mention all the intoxication, the addiction, the turning people into assholes, all the negative things about alcohol. There is zero reason for me to put any of this in my body. So I recommend against it. You're gonna feel a lot better. Okay, number 5 is, my limp dick skin in the way here. Wouldn't be the first time. Number 5 is salt. Now, specifically table salt. At least here in America, the most commonly used salt, like every restaurant, pretty much, vast majority of processed foods, they use table salt. Why is this a problem? Because table salt isn't just salt, which is, you know, it's a mineral, it's a rock, essentially. It's processed in such a way that they add all kinds of additives to it. They add these anti-caking agents, which contain all kinds of toxic chemicals often, and especially aluminum is almost always present in table salt. And because of, you know, the legalities, they can simply say, oh, the only ingredient here is salt. Yeah, and what is salt? Well, it's a whole compound of bullshit with some natural mineral involved in it as well. And basically, table salt is a huge boner killer. Like, I'm extremely sensitive to this. I don't go out to eat very often because most restaurants just use garbage ingredients. And salt is one of the main ones. Table salt, if I have it, I don't feel very good afterwards. It makes me feel shriveled, makes my heart pound. I feel intensely thirsty and I can't quench the thirst. It's just, I don't feel good after eating table salt. Salt in general, like even like quality natural salts, taken in excess have this effect. It is a vasoconstrictor, meaning it causes your blood vessels to shrink and compress, which raises your blood pressure. High blood pressure and constriction of your blood vessels means poor blood circulation, AKA you can't get hard. Do not use table salt. It's a poison essentially, but you can use, you know, real like sea salt, but even that you have to be careful of because there's so many microplastics in the ocean. The main salt that I use is Himalayan pink salt, pretty good, I'm a fan of it. And I don't even use that much salt like in my food throughout the day because I like to keep my sodium on the lower levels. I have better sexual function from that. Personally. Number 6 is refined sugars and carbs. This is a big one. This is a really tough one for a lot of people. The reason why I group these two together is because refined carbs essentially are sugars. They affect the body exactly like sugars. So these create big spikes in your blood sugar, which decreases your insulin resistance, and this directly lowers testosterone. There's a lot of studies showing that sugars and refined carbs also have destructive effects on your cells, you know, your mitochondria. When you're eating like a lot of refined carbs and sugars, you're just constantly having these blood spikes and crashes, and your libido is very, very up and down. Your mood's up and down. You get addicted to foods. It's not fun. And another thing I want to talk about here is that these tend to really throw off your gut health, your gut balance, because it starts to feed a certain type of bacteria, and even more commonly, it feeds fungus. Fungus is actually a huge issue in our world now. One thing that happens here is that, the gut microbiome, it's all kinds of different organisms living together, right? But when you take something like antibiotics, it kills a lot of your gut bacteria. And then what happens is certain types of fungus and harmful bacteria, they grow in abundance, and it starts to completely throw off your whole body's function. Fungus and molds are extremely common in people's bodies, and sugar is their fuel. And when you have mold and fungus issues in your body, they're constantly secreting mycotoxins into your system. And most mycotoxins are highly estrogenic. Like some of them are like 100 or 1,000 times more potent than estrogen. So when you have fungus issues, you are highly estrogenic. There's also all kinds of like nervous system imbalances that occur from this, all kinds of issues. And so having refined sugars and carbs, like just, concentrated sugars, it tends to really feed this stuff and throw it out of balance. So there's a whole cascade of negative health things that happen when you're loading up on sugar and refined carbs. And that's the American diet. And what is refined sugar to carbs? Well, any sort of sugar that's concentrated, and obviously that's like your common white sugar, but it can also be cane sugar, even coconut sugar. Any sort of sugar that's concentrated has this similar effect. Refined carbs being like white flour, things like that. When I cut this from my diet, I felt better than I ever had. And there was no going back for me. Like I cannot consume bread or sugar now. It makes me feel terrible. Okay, number 7 is GMOs, genetically modified organisms. And what I really mean by this is what's known as conventional farmed products here in America. And it's the same in many other countries as well. And that's a funny word because there's nothing conventional about modern farming, where they're just dumping chemicals on it and like literally genetically modifying the plant itself so that it can survive having all these toxic chemicals dumping on them. There's nothing conventional about that, right? But anyways, whole psyop thing. Why these are a problem? Well, because they're loaded with pesticides, insecticides, herbicides, all kinds of garbage. Let's talk about glyphosate, because in the past, I don't even know how long it's been, 10, 20 years, something, the whole gluten-free, celiac disease, all of a sudden became a big thing. But at the root of this really is pesticides, herbicides, glyphosate. Wheat just happens to be the one that it typically bonds to the most and has the highest concentration of. But most grain products, at least here in America, corn, wheat, oats, are loaded with glyphosate. Glyphosate's a funny thing because it was first synthesized, I think it was by a Swiss chemist or something like that, as a chemical that would demineralize pipes, like plumbing pipes. It would demineralize them. So it's like, well, what's that doing to your body? And then, I think a decade or two later, companies started saying, hey, well, maybe we could do something with this. And they found that you put it on a plant and it prevents the plant from creating amino acids and the plant dies. It's crazy, right? Well, what's that gonna do to a human? I wonder. Glyphosate, there's a whole, I can make a whole video just about this, but there's enough out there you can find, but I'll share some highlights. It basically prevents you from being able to absorb minerals. The American diet is already super low in minerals because our soil is depleted. So this on top of glyphosate in the system, you simply cannot get minerals. And what happens when you're not getting essential minerals? Well, most of the important bodily functions cannot happen. And especially, you cannot produce hormones. If you're not getting minerals, you cannot produce hormones. And so you become incredibly depleted, deficient. Glyphosate is also a potent estrogenic compound, super estrogenic. So again, I don't need to say more about that. We already know. It kills your gut health as well. It just completely disrupts it. And then pesticides, right? That's just one compound. There's more, right? Pesticides, which most, again, conventionally farmed produce, even if you're like, oh, I'm eating fruits, I'm eating vegetables. Yeah, well, they're loaded with poison. So it's like, you're not really getting the benefit from it. Some pesticides, what they do is specifically, they disrupt the reproductive system of insects so they cannot reproduce, so that the insect's no longer a problem. Well, guess what they do to humans? They disrupt your reproductive system. Highly estrogenic, toxic to your nervous system, just all kinds of things, all right? So this is what happens when you're consuming GMOs, when you're consuming produce, food items that have pesticides, herbicides, etc. You're poisoning yourself and you cannot be sexually vital. So yeah, it costs more to eat organic, but here's the thing. You spend a little bit more now, or you spend a lot more later on trying to fix all your health issues from poisoning yourself over the years. It's a simple calculation. And before I get to the last one, I just want to mention here, how was this possibly ever introduced into our food supply? These literally toxic compounds that are in our food supply, I think there's 3 possibilities. Number 1, just complete stupidity. I think that's actually the most unlikely. Number 2, that they just didn't give a shit because it's like, well, profits over, people's well-being, which isn't uncommon. Or the third possibility is that it was deliberately engineered this way. as some kind of population control system. When you look at these corporations, these funders that own these big ag companies, and you see, oh, well, they also own a lot of the medical system too. So they're actually profiting not just from the people buying their shit products, but then they're profiting from people getting sick from them. But that's a very tinfoil hat theory. It couldn't possibly be true, fortunately, right? Okay, and that brings us to the last point, which is shit in a box. Processed foods. What is processed food? Well, it's usually gonna be something that you eat out of a box, okay? It's prepackaged, it's prepared, it's ready to just pull it out of the box and eat it. Why these are boner killers is that these are usually just dead foods. They've been so processed that they have very little nutrients intact in them, and they're often loaded with either salt or refined sugars to make them taste better. And not to mention all these other additives, things like MSG, which is not just a boner killer, but a nervous system disruptor, makes you overexcitable and stressed out. Just for example of some of the things that are in your processed foods. And all these do is they make you addicted to food. They're specifically designed to have intense flavors that makes them addictive, and you're getting pretty much zero nutrition from them, and you just eat more and more of them. So you get addicted to them, and then you get fat. From eating too many of them, high body fat equals high estrogen. Fat cells store estrogen. So the more fat you have, the more estrogen you have. It's a simple calculation. So remember, if it comes out of a box, it's probably a boner killer. So when you replace processed foods with real foods, single ingredient items you buy at the store, you cook yourself, like, yeah, it's more work, but you are going to feel so much better, be much healthier. And again, you aren't paying medical bills later on in your life for putting garbage in your system, and your sexual health is going to be a lot better. So guys, here it is, my top 8 foods to avoid that are boner killers. But now what I want you to do is you're going to be asking yourself, okay, now I know what to eliminate, but what should I eat to improve my boners? So check out a video I made on the boner boosting diet. You're going to learn about my favorite foods that you can implement into your diet to boost your boners and your sexual health, all right? So check that out right up here on the screen. I'll put a link in the description of this video as well. And I'm curious, what foods do you think are big boner killers that I haven't mentioned in this video? Let me know in the comments below. Give this video a like and share it with a friend who's eating boner killing foods. Have a great day, my friend.